So I put a shout out on YouTube and Instagram for some questions for a Q&A video, and you did not disappoint. I had quite a few. So let's get started on some questions that I got from Instagram. So Spring Lane Bakery says, how did you decide the type or style of cakes you wanted to make in your business? Everybody gravitates to what they enjoy doing, what their hobbies and interests are. So it's really easy for me to make film themed cakes. I'm a massive fan of films. Granted, I don't get much time these days to actually watch them, but I did enjoy a lot of the 80s films when I had time. So because I enjoy all that pop culture stuff, that comes out in my cakes, and that's what I get more excited about. So really, whatever you get excited about is what you're going to enjoy making in cake. Christina Spencer 88 says, what's your favourite fondant? So I religiously used to use Renshaw's white Regal Ice, I think it was called, just the regular rolling out Regal Ice icing. I used that for years and years and years, and I'm a bit of a creature of habit, didn't really try anything else. Tried masa, yep, perfect stuff. Stretchiest thing on the planet. Rolls Royce of sugar paste. But I do run a business, and it was getting quite expensive to use. I only use it on very specialist shapes or projects. So I needed something that was a little bit more reliable than Renshaw's, but not as expensive as masa. And I tried couture paste by Cake Stuff. Yep. Total convert, that is all I use now. I do use Renshaw's colours because I only buy white, and I think they only do white and ivory in the couture, but I am a full convert. That is now my favourite. Imperial Cake says, your cakes are amazing, thank you very much. How long does it normally take to create one? It's the same answer for every single cake. 2 to 3 days. That's because I'm usually baking on one day. I bake them and allow them to settle and cool. Then I'll spend a day filling it, ganaching it, several layers of ganache to get that nice sharp edge. And the third day is usually decorating it. And that can change whether that's a 3-tier wedding cake or a single-tier birthday cake. Because I have like 2 to 3 cakes a week, I will be working on one while the other one's setting. So really they all stagger and take 2 to 3 days each. So over those 2 to 3 days, I will have made several cakes, but just while one's setting, I'll be working on another one. So I have a question here that's been asked a couple of times. So Cake County says, how long have you been baking? And if you weren't a cake decorator, what would you be? And on YouTube, Laura says, I would like to know how long you've been baking and decorating, and where did you learn? So how long have I... Whoa, don't fall over. So how long have I been baking and decorating? So I made my first cake when I was 13, and I am now 31. I'm rubbish at maths, I'll let you add that up. But it's a long time. Where did I learn? Trial and error. My nan actually made wedding cakes when I was younger. She was the person who made everybody's birthday cakes and sold wedding cakes. But I wasn't into it back then. Unfortunately, she died before I actually picked up cake. I could have learned a million things from her because she used to make her royal icing from scratch and her sugar paste from scratch. But I was too young to really want to get into cake at that point. I only picked it up afterwards when family members started getting cakes from like the supermarket. I was like, this is a bit different. This isn't... Where's the handmade sugar bears gone? Why do we now have sugar icing printed things? So I decided we needed the homemade cakes back, and I tried my hand at it at 13, and it kind of just took off. So as for learning it, it was literally trial and error. Lots and lots of error. In fact, I could actually include another question here, because another question is, do you have a photo of your very first cake? Yes, I do. And here it is. Isn't it hideous? White and peach, and it's actually a 2-tier. You wouldn't know because they're that flat, but this was a 2-tier cake, and it had no dowels in it. It was just a cake plonked straight on top of the other one. It had royal icing pipe work on it, plastic flowers shoved in it, a plastic topper on it, and I just threw some dragées on it like you do. So that's pretty much how I learnt. So when I did another 2-tier, I thought, maybe this needs some supports. So I learnt to put supports in, and then I learnt to cover cakes without pleats still stuck on the side of it. So I just learnt through trial and error and getting things wrong a lot. And back to the other part of the question, if you weren't a cake decorator, what would you be? That is such a hard question, because I have done every job under the sun, and I never really stuck at any of them because I get bored very easily. But I only get bored if it's the same routine every day. So I wouldn't be able to do a job, say like on the tills at a supermarket. Nothing wrong with that job. I would just get insanely bored because you sat there just beeping things through for hours at a time every single day. I used to be a cleaner. That drove me mad because you'd be cleaning the same stuff every day. If it's repetitive and it's got a routine, I'm not doing it. Adam, my husband, never gets why cake is any different. He said, yeah, but you're still making cakes all the time. I am, but every day is still different. I'm not baking every single day for 5 days in a row. I'm baking on one day. I'm ganaching on one day. I'm covering cakes on one day, and I'm decorating on another day. So the actual week isn't the same all the way through. I get bored if it's the same. So I find it really hard knowing what to do after cake. It would definitely have to be a job similar in being creative where I get to do something different. Although when I was at school, I did want to be a zookeeper. I suppose I'd just be shoveling poo every day. I got another couple of questions which were all the same. So Bradshaw B87 said, are there any inspiration outside of the cake art genre that have inspired you within? And a question from Paula Patterson on YouTube. Yay, love, love, love your cakes and vlogs. Thank you very much. I have so many questions. You are very creative. Where do you get your inspiration from when designing your cakes? So firstly, I get my inspiration from the customers. I ask them what they like. Is there any favourite films, TV shows, food, animals? They tell me what they like and I try to turn that into cake. As for inspirations outside of the cake art, yes, see them all the time. My phone is filled with pictures of wallpaper. I did actually make a wedding cake designed off a piece of wallpaper once. Carpets, statues, clay work, people's artwork online, book illustrations are another one, cushions, textures. Nobody can say that they've ever made a cake that hasn't been inspired by something. Everybody is inspired by something else. It might not be another cake design, but you've still been inspired by somebody's drawing out of a book. Me, I'm always inspired by movies and films as well. So Tidbits and Treats says, what do you do if people order something that doesn't necessarily fit your style? I tell them to get out. No, I don't. Obviously, if they come to me with maybe football, I don't do football as a rule. It doesn't spark, I was going to say, it doesn't spark joy. Marie Kondo. It doesn't spark me joy. So therefore, I'm not doing it. No, when you've been doing it this long, you have to love what you do. And I totally get it. Right at the beginning, I did make football cakes. I made a lot. I made stadiums, t-shirts, actual footballs with the scarves. Everybody has done them at some point. And you do it because that's how you start out. That's where your money is. That's what people want, and you just do it. But when you've been doing it as long as I have, stuff like that doesn't spark joy can get quite tedious. But I just kind of turn them kind of orders down now. But if they do come to me and they say, and I ask them what themes they like, they may say football. I'll explain to them that I don't kind of do that stuff anymore, and I'll ask them if there's anything else. If there is and they like a certain TV programme, I'll roll with that. If they say no, football is their entire life, then I'll say, I'm really sorry, but maybe this cake maker will be able to help you who makes these type of cakes all the time. I would rather send them to another cake maker to get what they want, and the cake maker doesn't mind making it, everybody's happy. I have kept that slot open for somebody who wants a Ghostbusters cake. I'm going to enjoy making Slimer much more than those black and white hexagon things on a football. Oh, I'm not even going to be able to say this right. So Laura Colombani, hope I've said that right. For covering, you prefer chocolate ganache or buttercream? So when I first started, ganache wasn't really a thing, it was all buttercream. So I used that for a long, long time, and you can see all my past cakes are buttercream with those soft little rounded edges. And then the Australians came in, and the Americans with their sharp edges and their chocolate ganache. And you kind of have to get on board with some of the cake trends. So I did try it out, and you know what? I have not looked back since. I now don't offer any cakes with buttercream as a covering. There's buttercream inside them, but I do not offer them as buttercream on the outside. That's because I use chocolate ganache and it sets so sturdy and solid to decorate on that I wouldn't trust anything else. So I am definitely a ganache convert. Nova Cake Design on Instagram said, hello, I need to buy an airbrushing system. Can you suggest a good brand? There are lots and lots of brand of airbrush, and there are lots and lots of brand of cake airbrush, which really are just regular airbrushes that have been branded for cake. One I use, and the first one I ever bought, and I still have it, is a little cheap one from eBay. All you need is a compressor that shoots your air out into an airbrush gun. And you can buy a single action gun or a dual action gun. It's completely up to you which one you prefer. I prefer a dual action, so that's what I bought to start with and learn with. It's not a specific cake airbrush, it's just a regular airbrush from eBay, and I think it cost me about £50 and it's been working for years. And I adore the little thing because it's actually in the shape of an elephant. But if you want to go down the branded route and you feel like a brand is better, you've got the Iwata airbrushes. Again, that's an airbrush brand, not a cake airbrush brand, but there's other cake airbrush brands. There's Clarella Cakes has got an airbrush and Spectrum Flow's got an airbrush. I think like Cassie Brown has got an airbrush. So there's lots and lots to choose from, but that's the cheaper one is the one that I use. So Blueberry Cakes Co. How could I prevent my cakes from drying out after they have baked? So when I bake my cakes and I put them on a rack to cool, what you'll notice is that when they start initially cooling down, they go a little bit hard. So once they're completely cool, I will then put it under some Tupperware. So it's just like a plastic lid with a clicky base. You can buy them from Aldi's or online, or just use a Tupperware tub that's large enough to fit your cake in, and leave it in that to settle. Believe it or not, cakes settle. You'll have heard of people resting meat. So when they've cooked the meat and they let it rest, that's because the structure of the meat actually changes as it rests, so it makes it easier to cut. If you cut the meat straight out of the oven, it just crumbles away. If you leave it to rest, the structure of the meat changes and it's easier to cut. That is exactly the same with cakes. Let your cakes settle in a tub, it will get softer and you won't be able to see it, but it does get a little bit shallower as the texture changes inside. So to prevent them from drying out, I put mine in a tub and I will leave it in there until it's ready to fill. And then before I fill it, I give it a drenching of sugar syrup, and that's equal parts sugar and water. Boil together in a pan until the sugar's all dissolved. Let that completely cool, and then you can add that to your cakes just to keep it moist whilst you're working on it. Oh, this one's a good one. This one is a Facebook stories message. If you could choose movie themed cake to make that you haven't made yet, what movie would you choose? She knows me well. She knows I do movie cakes. I've been lucky enough to do quite a lot of films that I already love. I've done Dark Crystal and Labyrinth and Goonies and Back to the Future. So there's not many I haven't done. I don't think I've ever done Gremlins though. I don't think I've done a Gremlins cake. I would quite like to do a Gremlins cake. And even though I've done lots and lots of Goonies cakes previously, I think what I would like to do is a large Goonies cake just to do it justice, because they're all either like single tier cakes with sloth on. I think I'd like to do a bigger one that's fully Goonies themed. I mean, I know that I'm known for like mashing lots of different themes on one cake, and sometimes I'll get like 13 themes to fit on it, but I do really like maybe like a 3-tier cake that's all just one theme, so that you can really do that theme justice. So for instance, I did a Lost Boys wedding cake that was Lost Boys theme from top to bottom and front to back, and I managed to get lots of different references on there. I also did the same with a Labyrinth cake and a Dark Crystal cake, where it was just one theme from top to bottom on a large cake. So yeah, I'd like to do that with the Goonies, I think, and Gremlins. I'm sure there's lots and lots of films that I like that I'd like to do. I should have probably thought about this more before I started to answer it. But there's not much calling for Gremlins wedding cakes at the moment. So Ms. Chappie, do you ever recommend modelling chocolate for figures? No, but the only reason is because I don't use it, and I don't like to recommend things if I haven't personally used it myself. I'm sure if I used it, I'd probably love it, because I've heard that you can blend it really well and it holds its shape and it's great for going around armatures. So I probably would love it. Just don't try it, because it's a lot more expensive than, say, sugar paste with Tylo added. And like I said, I am a business, so I have to keep my costs reasonable to be able to make a profit. The more higher end stuff I use, the less profit I'm going to make. If I was working on something just for myself, I'd probably give modelling chocolate a try, but it's not often that I get to work on something for myself. When I've got a bit of time off, I'd much rather sit and watch Netflix. I'm not going to be in the kitchen practicing. But yeah, so I only don't recommend it because I've never used it myself, but I've heard really good things. And if I use it in the future and like it, then I'll recommend it. So Bev Franklin from YouTube says, hi Tracy, wondering what editing software you use for your tutorials and amazing pictures. Looking forward to your next vlog and tutorial. You are so generous in sharing your talent and showing the real behind the scenes look at the life of an accomplished cake decorator. You should have a TV series. Oh, thanks Bev. This is my little TV series here on YouTube. So my editing software for my videos, I use Adobe Premiere Pro. It's not exactly user friendly, but I know people make videos using like iMovie and they turn out perfectly fine. I've got like a Windows PC, so I don't have iMovie. I've just kind of learned and stumbled my way through Premiere Pro. And for my pictures, I use Adobe Photoshop. So it's exactly the same company, one's for video and one's for photos. Again, not very user friendly. It does take a while to pick up, but I just learned it all myself watching helpful YouTube videos. Right, so I have been chattering on long enough, so that wraps up the first Q&A. Keep your eyes peeled on Instagram or YouTube for when I'm collecting questions for my Q&A number 2. So thanks very much for watching, and don't forget to subscribe to see all my other videos. Bye!